Kementerian Koordinator Bidang Pembangunan Manusia dan Kebudayaan Republik Indonesia beserta Asosiasi Jaringan Beasiswa Indonesia mempersembahkan Gerakan Sejuta Beasiswa untuk Indonesia merupakan sebuah gerakan inisiatif kolaboratif yang bertujuan untuk menyediakan 1 juta kesempatan beasiswa bagi masyarakat Indonesia. Gerakan ini adalah hasil kolaboratif berbagai lembaga beasiswa dari dalam dan luar negeri. Gerakan Sejuta Beasiswa untuk Indonesia juga bertujuan untuk meningkatkan akses pendidikan bagi masyarakat yang kurang mampu, berpotensi dan berprestasi, baik prestasi akademik maupun non-akademik. Gerakan ini dalam rangka mendukung capaian pembangunan manusia dan kebudayaan di bidang pendidikan menuju Indonesia Emas 2045. Pendidikan adalah masa depan yang patut direncanakan. Sebagai salah satu aspek pilar pembangunan Indonesia, pendidikan memiliki peran strategis dalam mencetak SDM unggul dan kompetitif. Istilah bonus demografi yang kian menggema yakni mampu menghantarkan Indonesia menuju generasi emas 2045.
Setiap anak bangsa berhak untuk mendapatkan kesempatan yang sama untuk meraih beasiswa.
Mimpi akan menjadi nyata jika akses pendidikan merata.
Kita harus bersatu, merancang dan meluncurkan sebuah gerakan besar. Gerakan Sejuta Beasiswa untuk Indonesia.
Gerakan untuk membuka lebih banyak peluang beasiswa bagi seluruh generasi muda Indonesia.
Asosiasi Jaringan Beasiswa Indonesia bersama pemerintah melalui Kementerian Koordinator Bidang Pembangunan Manusia dan Kebudayaan mendorong lahirnya Gerakan Sejuta Beasiswa untuk Indonesia. Gerakan Sejuta Beasiswa menargetkan pemuda-pemudi Indonesia berusia produktif yang berkomitmen untuk meningkatkan kualitas SDM Indonesia. Gerakan ini bertujuan untuk meningkatkan angka partisipasi kasar APK yang saat ini masih rendah.
Gerakan Sejuta Beasiswa untuk Indonesia membangun kualitas sumber daya manusia yang unggul dan berdaya saing global.
Dengan sinergi dan kolaborasi, kita wujudkan harapan menjadi kenyataan.
Ini bukan sekadar program, ini adalah gerakan nasional.
Gerakan Sejuta Beasiswa untuk Indonesia.
Pemerintah hadir bersama masyarakat, menyentuhkan visi Indonesia Emas 2045, mencetak SDM unggul dan berdaya saing global.
Badan Pembangunan Nasional mencatat, dalam 10 tahun terakhir, angka partisipasi kasar pendidikan tinggi di Indonesia hanya 31,45%. Jika dibandingkan negara ASEAN lainnya, APK pendidikan tinggi Indonesia masih jauh tertinggal. Keterbatasan kemampuan finansial masyarakat untuk melanjutkan pendidikan ke jenjang perguruan tinggi menjadi faktor utama rendahnya angka partisipasi kasar. Untuk itu diperlukan sinergitas antara lembaga pengelola beasiswa, mulai dari pemerintah, lembaga non-pemerintah, perguruan tinggi, termasuk para alumni dan penggerak.
Pemimpin masa depan lahir dari kesempatan yang dipersiapkan.
Kami hadir untuk memastikan bahwa tidak ada mimpi yang padam karena kemiskinan.
Informasi dan akses beasiswa adalah hak setiap warga Indonesia.
Kita satukan langkah agar beasiswa tak lagi terdengar asing di pelosok negeri.
Dari dalam negeri hingga studi ke luar negeri, setiap orang dapat kesempatan yang sama untuk mencetak prestasi.
Kami percaya potensi anak Indonesia itu luar biasa.
Tugas kita adalah membukakan jalan untuk mereka.
Bersama, kita hadirkan 1 juta kesempatan untuk 1 juta impian. Gerakan Sejuta Beasiswa untuk Indonesia bukan sekadar gerakan, tapi warisan kebaikan.
Kita pastikan beasiswa bisa menjangkau bagi siapa saja.
Kita beri ruang bagi mereka yang semangatnya tidak pernah padam.
Zakat, wakaf, dan donasi semua punya andil dalam mencerdaskan bangsa.
Beasiswa bukan sekedar bantuan dana, tapi jalan untuk meningkatkan sumber daya manusia.
Tidak boleh ada kesenjangan dalam akses pendidikan. Melalui beasiswa, kita wujudkan harapan anak bangsa untuk terus berkembang dan berkontribusi bagi bangsa dan negara.
Beasiswa adalah investasi terbaik masa depan untuk mengejar ketertinggalan.
Menuntut ilmu itu wajib, karena dengan ilmu, kesejahteraan bisa tercapai.
Bagi kami, program beasiswa bukan sekedar CSR. Ini adalah komitmen jangka panjang untuk membentuk pemimpin masa depan yang jujur,
berakhlak, dan cerdas.
Kami mendukung anak-anak Indonesia agar tidak berhenti belajar karena miskin.
Majunya sebuah negara ditentukan oleh kualitas pendidikannya.
Beasiswa adalah jembatan menuju kesejahteraan dan kemandirian ekonomi. Generasi muda harus disiapkan untuk memimpin Indonesia.
Potensi diri bisa tergali dengan hadirnya program beasiswa dari dalam dan luar negeri.
Pendidikan adalah fondasi untuk melakukan perubahan.
Generasi emas 2045 bisa tercapai jika akses pendidikan merata untuk semua.
Semakin banyak beasiswa, semakin besar harapan anak bangsa untuk sekolah.
Akses pendidikan yang merata, membuka cakrawala, mengarungi samudera.
Kami bergerak untuk menanam harapan lewat pendidikan.
Sejatinya, beasiswa bukan hanya bantuan, tetapi kepercayaan.
Kepercayaan untuk anak bangsa menjadi versi terbaik dari dirinya.
Kesempatan itu kini hadir lewat gerakan sejuta beasiswa.
Mari kita sebarkan kabar baik ini ke seluruh penjuru Indonesia.
Dari kota ke desa, dari timur sampai barat, beasiswa untuk semua.
Kami berkomitmen agar tidak ada anak Indonesia yang tertinggal.
Menuntut ilmu adalah cahaya dan beasiswa adalah jalannya.
Inilah gerakan sejuta beasiswa untuk Indonesia. Gerakan menuju Indonesia Emas 2045.
Bersama
kita hadirkan sejuta kesempatan
untuk sejuta impian.
Welcome to IALF, the Indonesia-Australia Language Foundation. IALF has been at the forefront of excellence in language training and testing for over 35 years, empowering people across Indonesia and beyond. IALF offers something for everyone, from general English courses for all ages to specialized programs such as IELTS test preparation for those preparing to study overseas or business English for professionals. IALF has provided pre-departure academic English language training for Australia Awards scholarships since the 1980s, as well as for other prestigious scholarship programs offered by New Zealand, the UK and other countries. Our general English courses cater to learners at all levels, building a strong English language foundation and opening doors to new opportunities. For young learners, we offer dynamic programs that make learning English enjoyable and effective. A good score in an international test such as IELTS or Pearson Academic is a prerequisite for studying or working abroad. At IALF, we offer testing services and test preparation courses for the general public and for government agencies to ensure that candidates perform at their absolute best. At IALF Global, we provide expert study abroad counselling services, guiding clients to the best international education opportunities. IALF Global Education Fairs connect students with institutions worldwide, broadening their horizons. IELTS tryout sessions provide realistic practice, boosting confidence and readiness for the actual exam. IALF branches are strategically located in Jakarta, Gading Serpong, and Bali. We are always within reach to support your educational journey. Reflecting on our 35-year journey, we are inspired by the success of our students, alumni, and partners. Join the thousands who have transformed their lives through language studies with IALF. Together, we build brighter futures.
Hello, good afternoon everyone. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Om Swastiastu, Shalom, salam kebajikan, Namo Buddhaya. Selamat siang teman-teman semuanya. Gimana nih kabarnya hari ini? Selamat datang semuanya di rangkaian Festival Beasiswa Merah Putih, Pesta Beasiswa Rakyat Indonesia, kelas online bersama IALF, Indonesia Australia Language Foundation pada hari Kamis, 18 September 2025 melalui Zoom Meeting dan live langsung melalui YouTube Indonesia Scholarship Network. Perkenalkan, aku Kay, selaku MC yang akan nemenin teman-teman di sini pada hari ini sekaligus memimpin jalannya acara. Nah, gimana nih kabarnya teman-teman? Semoga masih semangat semua ya. And it is also my pleasure to warmly welcome Mr. J. Arif Rahman as Director of Marketing at IALF and David Bradbury as Director of Studies for Teacher Training and Academic English Programs at IALF. Nah, sambil tunggu peserta yang lainnya, aku mau kindly reminder lagi nih teman-teman untuk mengganti Zoom ID kamu dengan nama panggilan kamu dan jangan lupa on cam ya buat temenin aku di sini sekaligus biar kita serasa interaktif dan dekat gitu Kak. Meskipun online gitu ya. Oke. Nah, teman-teman, karena kita hari ini bakal ngomongin tentang critical thinking skills for study abroad, aku pengen tahu nih kira-kira teman-teman kalau misalnya belajar di luar negeri tuh apa sih yang ditakutin gitu? Apakah dari culture-nya atau mungkin dari bahasanya gitu? Boleh dong ditulis, diketik ya di Zoom chat atau bisa di YouTube chat mungkin ya. Aku pengen tahu kira-kira kalian punya pandangan struggle apa nih kalau kita belajar di luar negeri? Oke, nah sambil nunggu yang lain juga, aku mau kenalin lagi nih tentang Pesta Beasiswa Rakyat Indonesia, Festival Beasiswa Merah Putih. Program ini merupakan sebuah kegiatan inisiatif strategis untuk memperluas akses pendidikan melalui sinergi lebih dari 100 lembaga beasiswa nasional dan internasional. Kegiatan ini full gratis untuk seluruh rakyat Indonesia guna mendukung visi Presiden dan Wakil Presiden dalam Asta Cita poin keempat yaitu penguatan SDM, pendidikan, teknologi, serta peran pemuda menuju Indonesia Emas 2045. Dan salah satu rangkaian menuju Pesta Beasiswa Rakyat Indonesia ini sendiri itu adalah kelas online ini ya teman-teman, yang mana ini merupakan pelatihan dan workshop untuk peserta acara Pesta Beasiswa Rakyat Indonesia yang sudah mendaftar pastinya dan terbuka untuk umum. Nah, ini bisa teman-teman lihat juga nih di sini kita masih ada banyak rangkaian dan juga ada puncaknya nih di tanggal 20 September 2025 ya, di hari Sabtu besok itu ada part 1-nya jam 9 sampai jam 3 di Gedung Sesi Center Pantai Indah Kapuk, Jakarta Utara. Jangan sampai ketinggalan karena di sini nanti akan ada sesi forum diskusi Grand Design Beasiswa Indonesia, matchmaking dan sosialisasi lembaga beasiswa dengan stakeholder pendidikan mulai dari sekolah, pesantren, hingga perguruan tinggi di Indonesia. Nah, yang nggak kalah seru lagi nih, di part 2 kita akan diadakan di bulan Oktober 2025 di Gedung MPR, DPR, DPD, RI, DKI Jakarta. Yang mana di sini bakal ada pameran 100 lembaga beasiswa dan kegiatan Indonesia Scholarship Award 2.0. Yang mana ini adalah kegiatan penghargaan dan apresiasi untuk lembaga beasiswa. Nah, pastinya untuk yang part 2 nih, karena belum ada tanggal pastinya, teman-teman bisa langsung kontak atau follow dulu deh ke @festivalbeasiswa.id dan @scholarshipcenter.id supaya bisa lebih tahu nih update-annya nanti. Oke, aku mau lihat dari komen dulu kira-kira apa sih struggle-nya teman-teman? Budaya, cara pandang. Oke, jadi ada budayanya, gimana ya budayanya setiap negara beda-beda gitu ya. Cara pandangnya juga. Oke, kita akan melihat itu nanti. Kita akan mendengarkan dari speakers kita pada hari ini gitu ya tentang critical thinking skill. Okay, so today's online class is supported by Indonesia Australia Language Foundation or IALF, who will present an exciting topic which is I mentioned earlier about academic English workshop, unlock critical thinking skills for studying abroad. Please welcome to the spotlight again, Mr. J and Mr. David. Hello, Mr. J and Mr. David. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Hello, good afternoon, everyone.
Well, I hope you are doing well today. Are you all set to deliver your presentation?
Yes, we are all set. We're ready.
Cool. Okay, I'm sure everyone here are ready with their notes already. So without further ado, Mr. J and Mr. David, time is yours.
Thank you. All right, great. So ini serupa dengan misi Gerakan Sejuta Beasiswa untuk Indonesia dan Indonesia Scholarship Center dan Asosiasi Jaringan Beasiswa Indonesia. IALF juga memiliki misi untuk membangun versi masa depan yang terbaik untuk kita semua, untuk baik untuk keluarga, untuk komunitas, dan tentunya untuk bangsa dan negara. Maka kita selalu menyebut bahwa building the best version of the future starts with us, starts with you, and starts here. Oke, sedikit background info, tambahan dari video yang tadi. IALF is Indonesia's premier institution for English and Indonesian language training. Jadi bukan hanya dengan pelatihan bahasa Inggris saja, tetapi bahasa Indonesia juga. Kita merupakan official test center untuk tes IELTS dan juga untuk Pearson PTE Academic. Kita juga melakukan banyak pelatihan dan sertifikasi untuk teacher training dan juga layanan studi ke luar negeri bersama IALF Global. Nah, kita berlokasi di Jakarta, di Sudirman Park, Jakarta Pusat, IALF di Gading Serpong, dan juga di Denpasar, Bali. Inilah 3 kantor utama kami. Dan selama 35 tahun kebelakang kami telah bekerja sama dengan berbagai instansi yang berhubungan dengan academic English, baik itu untuk pre-departure training, pre-departure orientation, IELTS preparation, dan lain-lain. Ini salah satu di antaranya adalah Australia Awards, yang kebetulan sekarang kita lagi ada masa pre-departure training. Kalau lihat feed Instagram kita nanti beberapa minggu ke depan itu bisa mengintip kegiatan-kegiatan mereka sehari-hari itu seperti apa. Alright, let's get into what IALF does when it comes to English for academic purposes atau EAP. Basically, one of the core competencies that we do is to develop language and study skills to achieve academic success in higher education. So really to prepare before we enter a new academic environment abroad. So throughout 35 years, we have trained over more than 25,000 Indonesians to study abroad, and our clients include the various ones that you've seen before. Now, one of their main programs is pre-departure EAP, pre-departure English for academic purposes. Ini again is aimed to develop the language, academic, social, cross-cultural, and study skills required for postgraduate or undergraduate programs abroad. Now, the courses are the duration of the course is from 2 to 24 weeks, depending on the English level of our students, the entry English level of our students. Now, pre-departure training program ini kita bagi menjadi 2 macam. Ada pre-departure orientation yang durasinya lebih singkat. Ini kemarin sempat dengan beberapa agensi pemerintah dan sekolah yang opt-in untuk ambil durasi yang lebih singkat agar bisa lebih cepat berangkat. Ada yang lebih intensif dan lebih panjang durasinya adalah pre-departure training. Ini yang biasa kami provide untuk Australia Awards Indonesia dan juga Mannaki New Zealand scholarships. Nah, again, ini lebih kepada core kompetensi yang disediakan melalui program EAP kita adalah yang kita akan bahas agak lebih mendalam hari ini adalah critical thinking, developing higher analysis and critical thinking skills that are appropriate for the academic culture overseas, karena budaya belajar yang ada ditemukan di Indonesia sama di luar negeri itu sedikit berbeda, well, not sedikit but a lot. And then we have academic writing skills, which is very essential for your studies abroad, and research skills. So those are the academic skills enhancement components. And then we also have cross-cultural skills so that the students will be familiar with budaya-budaya yang akan mereka hadapi hari-hari nantinya pada saat studi ke luar negeri. Bagian dari itu juga adalah application guidance, tata cara untuk bisa apply ke university tertentu, pemilihan kursus, and also, of course, your personal statement writing, crafting compelling personal statements to showcase your achievements and motivations. Dan yang terakhir adalah learning strategies and study skills development. So it's self-directing learning, developing the ability to independently study and manage learning. I guess it's more of learning how to learn in a sense, time management, and also task orientation. Nah, ini presentasi dari saya, ini singkat. So thank you for taking this 5 minutes to listen to what our EAP programs are. And without further ado, we'll go into our main feature presentation of today with Mr. David Bradbury.
Thank you, Jay.
Right, let's just find PowerPoint, and there we are. Okay, good afternoon, everyone who's joining us on Zoom and who's also joining us through YouTube. My name is David Bradbury. I'm the Director of Studies for Teacher Training and Academic English, which includes the pre-departure training programs that Jay was just talking about. And as Jay said, we've just started a series of those programs this week here at IALF Bali. Okay, I'm going to talk today about one of the most important parts of the pre-departure training, that prepares students for studying abroad, and that's the development of critical thinking skills. And I hope that you'll be participating in this workshop because I'll be asking some questions and I'll be interested to hear your responses, and hopefully even helping develop some critical thinking skills this afternoon. Now, I'm going to start, as usual with these presentations, with a couple of questions. First of all, what is critical thinking? And secondly, why is it important for university students? Okay, now, any thoughts about that? Can we have some answers in the Zoom chat, please? Let's see what you already know. Okay, everyone, start typing. What is critical thinking? Why is it important?
Coba kira-kira teman-teman bisa diketik di Zoom chat atau di YouTube chat yang teman-teman yang nonton dari YouTube. Critical thinking itu apa atau pemikiran kritis ya. Dan itu kenapa sih penting untuk murid-murid universitas mahasiswa gitu ya. Boleh bahasa Indonesia, boleh pakai bahasa Inggris, silahkan diketik ya di Zoom chat, nanti akan aku bantu. I think everyone's still wondering.
They're still subcritical.
Oke, gimana teman-teman? Boleh mungkin singkatnya aja gitu, apa sih? Oh, we have one here.
Okay. Oh, okay. Look, Fatia has made a really important point here. Absolutely. It's processing information, not just accepting it. And that's really one of the most important parts of critical thinking. So thank you. And again, from Wurianda. Okay, tidak mudah terpengaruh. Yes, okay. Particularly not easily influenced by things which are, for example, things like hoax news or incorrect assumptions. Okay. Oh, hello again, Chloe. So welcome back. I know you made some good comments yesterday. It's nice to see you're participating again today. Okay, so it is rational and respective analysis. That's important. Yes. Selective towards new information is a really important point. Okay, and then from Faki, oh, like this one, yes. So clearly, logically, rationally, three very important words to describe critical thinking. Before making a decision, that's right, it could be a decision about whether to accept something, whether to believe something, whether to write something. Okay, well, this is a really encouraging start. Okay, so we have some definitions of critical thinking there. Anybody, any ideas why it's important for university students?
Kenapa nih teman-teman kok penting buat mahasiswa sih? Apalagi mau ke luar negeri.
Okay, so thank you, Anissa Kusumadewi. Yes, okay. Yes, so students become more thoughtful in decision making. Look, decision making is so important in such a range of jobs, and the university students very often are the decision makers of the future. So building critical thinking at the university level, when those people then graduate, come to Indonesia and move into important positions, hopefully their decisions will be rational and clear and logical. Okay, any other ideas why it's important for university students?
Coba teman-teman kira-kira apakah ada pemahaman lain? Kenapa? Atau alasan lain?
We're off to a good start. Oh, okay. Yes, okay. Once again, similar point here from Dian Yulianti then about it's about decision making. And really, again, that's such an important part of it about being able to make better decisions about things. And so what I'm going to do in the presentation today is I'm going to start by discussing what critical thinking is. Then we're going to look at why it's important. And then we're going to look at some specific examples. And I'm going to ask all of you to think critically with some of the claims that I'll be talking about. Now, we're talking specifically here about university students and the kind of training we do here at the IALF for our students who will be studying overseas in New Zealand, Australia, and other locations. And for them, we're very much thinking about two main types for English for academic purposes students. Firstly, critical reading. And again, we heard a comment earlier about not just accepting anything and not being influenced. So what it means then is, look, what is the author actually claiming? What are they saying is true? And is it justified? Which means basically looking at the data, looking at what they're inferring and applying, and looking for things that's not quite right. Is there some kind of flawed thinking? Are they biased somehow? Is there something missing? So critical reading is the first part, and then through critical reading, we then help our students to produce critical writing. And critical writing is doing the opposite. So it is making a claim, making a point, which is backed by logical, rational arguments. So critical thinking is a two-way process. It's what we receive and think about, and it's also then what we use to produce writing and, of course, sometimes speaking as well. So to be specific, by the way, if anybody has any questions about this, then do feel free to drop things in the chat. Okay, now, critical thinking is therefore looking at the writing or perhaps listening to the speaking of somebody and asking, okay, so what is their position? What are their arguments and what are their conclusions? Now, let's just take a quick time out because remember we're talking about academic language, so let's just look at some definitions here. So you're probably familiar with opinion. An opinion is basically anything that somebody believes. So here's a couple of examples, or rendang is wonderful, or Manado food is the best in Indonesia. So all of those are personal opinions. There's not really any evidence, it's just what you feel in your heart. Or maybe your stomach, if it's rendang. And then that kind of, it's a much more general statement. In academic English, we talk about a position. And this is also used in things like the IELTS test. The descriptor for the writing for the IELTS test, for example, talks about maintaining a clear and constant position. And a position, it's like an opinion, but it's more academic, it's specific, defined, and it has supports. So it's no longer a personal opinion, it's basically, I believe this because, and because, and because. And argument, when we're talking about academic language, doesn't just mean fighting with your neighbor. An argument is, again, it's a logical position which includes the reasons for the belief, evidence to support it, and various other supports. And with an argument, you're trying to persuade people. Now, obviously, this isn't just for academics, for example. When politicians want our vote, they use arguments. They say, vote for me because blah, 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 and they want their vote. They want your vote. In academic English, the person who's writing it wants other people to agree with them. So back to critical thinking then. The other parts of critical thinking includes looking at the evidence that people are presenting. Is this logical evidence? Does it make sense? And also, it is looking at things that just don't appear to make sense. So is somebody assuming something which makes no sense? Are they using false or incorrect assumptions? Okay, nice definition here from AUSCI scholarships. Gathering and evaluating information from different perspectives. And evaluating is a really important verb as well for this. Questioning assumptions, it's really questioning many things. And of course, yes, analyzing evidence to make sure it makes sense. Okay. And so being specific, then it's deciding, look, does it make sense what they're saying? Are the arguments they're using logical? Is it rational? And again, for students studying overseas, it means, are they expressing their points clearly? Does it make sense? Basically, does everything nyambung? Also with critical thinking, and this is really important, it means being able to connect different things and applying the knowledge. So critical thinkers are people who make a difference, who can connect different ideas and to understand a concept, or basically to put concepts together and then make something sometimes completely new from them. So critical thinking is really important, for example, for entrepreneurs who produce startups. It's critical thinking, putting together all of these different ideas. Okay, so we've had a few ideas about that. So what do we have so far? What are the skills students need then in critical thinking? Let's just have a few, can we have a few skills in the Zoom chat?
Coba guys, boleh disebutin skill apa aja yang dibutuhin di critical thinking? Pas sudah ada, oke. Kira-kira apa nih yang diperluin?
Yep. Okay. Well, communication, of course, is really important. Yes. Without communication, we can't convey any ideas at all. Yes. Okay. Analytical ability or analysis is one. Okay. Any more?
Any more? Maybe I'll answer this one. Is that okay?
Please go ahead.
Okay. Maybe the interpretation, how to understand, like understanding and explaining the meaning of the arguments or evidence.
Okay. That all makes sense as well, yes. And a few more coming in as well. Open-mindedness from Fatia is really important as well, yes. It is really important to be open-minded, but as somebody once said, you shouldn't be so open-minded that your brain falls out. So yes, you should be open-minded to new ideas and concepts, but not too much so that you accept everything. So it's a balance. Problem-solving is really important. Here we are, knowledge, judgment, analysis. Yes, comparing facts. Oh, it looks like we have quite a lot of critical thinkers here already. Okay. Oh, yes. Right. Well, this is the list that I thought of, because, of course, we're starting by observing, which can include reading. We're evaluating or making judgments about things. We're using our brains to reason and think things through. Why is this like it is? What's the reason? Of course, analyzing. And sometimes as well, remember with critical thinking, because we are producing arguments, sometimes we're persuading as well. It's important to remember that persuading is not just some kind of academic term. If, for example, people become entrepreneurs in the future, they need to persuade people to buy their products. They need to persuade investors. Politicians need to persuade people to vote for them. You need to persuade NGOs or governments to grant funding for your organization. So persuading is really important. But again, it needs to be based on rational arguments. Now, we talked briefly about why it is important. And this is really a lot of these things you have typed in the chat already. So as we said right from the start, yes, students need to read, not just think, oh yes, that's written by a famous person, it must be true. So it's important for students, and remember the focus of our workshop today is studying overseas, and lecturers, they don't just want to hear students agreeing with them. Okay, it's important to realize that as the world changes and we are becoming more open to other ideas, lecturers don't just want to hear their opinions back at them like an echo. They like to be challenged because that's how people move forward. And as we've said several times before, yes, students need to be able to solve problems, not just remember and accept things. And one really important point about writing and using critical thinking is providing enough support for arguments. So lecturers need to understand what their students actually think. What is their opinion? Why do they believe it? So it's important for students and important for lecturers. Now, when we're talking about critical thinking, I'm just going to get briefly technical. Those of you in education, you might have, has anybody heard of something called Bloom's taxonomy? Any educators here?
Ada pengajar nggak di sini?
Oh, there we are. Yes, okay. It's Bloom's taxonomy. It's a very old paper. It's even older than me. It goes back to 1956. And basically what it is a way of talking about cognitive skills and using the brain, not just to remember, not just to understand, but to move towards higher order thinking skills where people are evaluating and even creating brand new things. And critical thinking means using the higher order thinking skills. So previously with study, or perhaps even with school, the lecturers teach something and then in the exam the students just need to basically almost like repeat what the lecturer told them. But now we're moving beyond that, where critical thinking is becoming really important, and it means that, for example, previously in lower order thinking skills it was just remembering and rearranging and reproducing. Now, in this critical thinking dynamic era, it's going beyond that, and it's about evaluating and judging based on rational criteria using these kinds of verbs. Now, let's see what happens when things go wrong. Okay, what happens when people do not think critically? Any ideas?
Kira-kira
What are the
apa yang
potential
terjadi
problems?
nih?
Sorry.
Gimana nih teman-teman? Kalau misalnya orang-orang nggak berpikir kritis, apa yang akan terjadi ya? Bisa di chat Zoom atau chat YouTube?
Right. Oh, yes. Okay. So, yes, again, Wirwanda, it's again, you're making that really important point that, yes, people are easily manipulated. They misjudge things. Thank you, Fatia. And Luciani is saying that, yes, of course, we're like robots without critical thinking. And robots can't make a better future for this country. So we need people who can think critically. Okay, let's just look at some specific examples of what happens. Here is an argument that somebody's tried to make. Oh, hang on, let's just have a look and see what the latest comment is. Yes, easily manipulated, can't solve problems. I agree with you. Thank you, Tien. Okay, how about this? Is that logical?
Kira-kira logis nggak nih kalimat ini teman-teman? Apa yang salah nih dari argumen ini? Oh, itu bagus buat gigi kamu. Asam bersifat korosif. Apel mengandung banyak asam, jadi mereka nggak bagus buat gigi kamu. Jadi ini apa nih kira-kira?
Okay, absolutely right. And once again, our friend Cleosa is made some comments. Yes, because of course it doesn't make any sense, does it? First of all, it starts by saying they're good for your teeth, and then so they're not good for your teeth. Without thinking, it's very easy to produce these kind of sentences that don't make sense because, of course, it lacks consistency. This is the kind of writing that makes lecturers crazy because, look, are apples good for your teeth or not? Make up your mind. Okay, let's try again. What about... It's okay. Okay, don't try and translate this. Is that one better?
Gimana kalau dengan kalimat yang satu ini gimana teman-teman? Apakah make sense? Atau masih kurang make sense menurut teman-teman? Boleh di chat? Nyambung nggak dikira-kira pernyataannya? Oke, apakah sudah ada better? From Cleosa, better?
Oh, okay, there we are. Yes. Okay, well, it is, yes, because what we have here is consistency. Okay, so first, apples are better for your teeth. Then sugar. Sugar is bad for your teeth. Apples are more beneficial. So it's consistent because of critical thinking and critical writing. And what's interesting is that, again, at the end, there we are, even further support recommended by dentists. Now, what it does also contain... Oh, hang on, let's just see what these comments are. Okay, there we are. Yep, so that's your homework. Go and eat an apple. Okay, now, the opposite argument is given. Okay, some people argue that, and this is very common in academic writing. Some people argue that, and it's kind of implying those wrong people, because it's followed by however, and then the opposite argument. So the opposite argument is given, but it's refuted. Again, this is good academic style. Okay, let's just quickly look at another couple, and then we're going to look at another slightly different focus on questions. Let's skip this one. Let's go to this one. Here we are. Cloning of human cells should never be allowed. It will create another Frankenstein's monster. We don't want monsters like that. What's gone wrong there?
Apa nih yang salah dari kalimat ini teman-teman? Mungkin bisa dianalisis lagi dari kalimat pertama ke kalimat kedua, kalimat ketiga, di Zoom chat lagi dan di YouTube chat ya teman-teman. Can I answer this one, Mr. Devi?
If you like.
While waiting for others. The one sentence that doesn't make sense here is, we don't want such monsters. That actually doesn't make sense for me.
Okay, well, it kind of does. Well, it kind of means that we don't want monsters like that. We don't want Frankenstein's monster. One of the things here is what's being compared with. So, what's being compared with what?
With the monsters with cloning of human cells? Maybe?
Okay, yes. So, what we're doing here, then, no cloning, because it's like Frankenstein's monster. Do you know the story of Frankenstein's monster?
Actually, I don't.
Think about Wednesday.
Oh, right.
It's kind of
Okay.
his family.
I watched that one.
A bit different from that, but basically, there's a couple of strange things here. First of all, Frankenstein's monster wasn't a clone, but basically it was fiction. So it kind of doesn't really make sense to use fiction to say to support an argument. Okay, it doesn't really make sense in many levels. Let's look at another example, and this is from real life. Okay, did anyone see the lunar eclipse on September the 8th?
Yes, I did.
Did you stay up and see it?
But yeah, yes.
I was okay. It was I was already asleep, but some people watched it. Now, so that was on September the 8th, and let's see what this is. Okay, oh, somebody else saw it. Okay. Now, tragically in Bali, of course, a few days later, we had these serious floods. And there were some strange comments on social media. Did anyone else hear those strange rumors?
I think yes, because it is everywhere in the news.
Okay, so basically then, this was, again, another failure of critical thinking. Because this is, here comes some Latin for any Latin speakers, this is basically a problem that's called post hoc ergo propter hoc, which means, because it happened after it, it must have been caused by it. But it doesn't really make any sense, because there's no proven link between them, but critical thinking helps students avoid these traps. Because one of the most important things about critical thinking is asking questions. And as we heard from a couple of the comments earlier, then one of the most important things is to question things, not just accept them. And let's look at an example. Now, here is a sentence. Now, we all know cyberbullying can be a serious problem, but critical thinking means, okay, what exactly do they mean? Now, before just thinking, oh, yes, that's true. Okay, if you saw this, if somebody said this, you saw it in a newspaper, in an article, what questions would you ask before you decided if it was true or not? Any ideas?
Oke, teman-teman, dari pernyataan ini kira-kira apa pertanyaan yang bisa disampaikan gitu kayak mungkin dimulai dari what, how? Oh, there you go. One from Adam. David.
Okay. Okay, yes, that makes sense. Okay, so what do we mean by teenagers? Any more? Any similar questions to the one that Adam has written?
Coba kira-kira. Okay. One from Fadia.
Yep, okay, yes. Any more questions specifically about the statement? Okay, here we are. In fact, actually, Wurianda has asked pretty much the first question. Let's just look then. Okay, so yes, how many is many? Is it that? How many is many? Is 40% many? Is 98% many? So is it 2/3 or is it 200,000? Percentage of what? Okay, so many is not really a precise word. And also, is it consistent for different groups? Now, it's also really important to ask questions like, where did this data come from? There are many different ways of collecting data. And it's like a lot of surveys. If, for example, many people complain about companies, many people send WhatsApps and everything to complain about service, but people don't often send messages saying it's good. So does that mean most people are dissatisfied? No, it doesn't. It means that more people sent dissatisfied messages. Maybe the other people were silent. So the way the data was collected, and if it was a survey, what were the questions? Because the wording of the question can influence people. So how many was the sample? Because if the sample was only 200 people, it may not be much. If it was 2 million people, then it might be relevant. There are billions of teenagers in the world. Were the respondents chosen randomly or did they volunteer? Was there a balance between men and women, older people, or older teenagers, younger teenagers? How old is the data? Has cyberbullying got worse or has it got better? And where? Which country, which continent? In cities, outside cities? Most of what? Is it mostly urban areas? And then what do we mean by cyberbullying? Do we just mean disagreeing with someone? Do we mean using bad words, or do we mean making worse claims or using offensive language? How do we define it? And what does the word target actually mean? And also, have been, from when till when? So yes, basically what Marianda has just typed, what does that actually mean, a target of cyberbullying? Because not everything hits a target. So how is this judged? So this is what I mean. It's really important. A lot of critical thinking is asking questions, not just accepting things. Okay, let's look at another example. What questions could you ask about this? Again, so think about the individual parts of the question. Any ideas, anyone?
Boleh langsung di chat ya.
Yep, in the chat, please.
Mirip-mirip sama yang sebelumnya, teman-teman. Apa nih kira-kira pertanyaan critical thinking yang terlintas di pikiran teman-teman? Ada most, overseas students, culture shock, okay. Maybe start from me, Mr. David. Oh, there you go, Fatia.
Yes, absolutely right. There's a few logical questions all in one there. Yes, that makes sense.
Ada yang lain, teman-teman? Boleh mungkin dari culture shock, dari students-nya.
Yep. Okay, that's absolutely right. Thank you from dear Yulianti. Just a couple more.
Ada lagi, teman-teman? Maybe what kind of culture shock?
Yes, because how do we define, what do we mean by severe culture shock? Yes, because it might just mean, to some people, it might just mean homesickness. Yes, there we are. Well done. Our brains are on the same frequency, Urianda. Because it's not something you can measure severe, is it? One person to one person, severe might be very different. Some people might be saying, oh, I'm severe culture shock. I can't find Indomie anywhere. And to somebody else, it might mean much more towards depression. So yes, we need to be careful then with these. This is using these kind of almost like evaluative language in claims is not always a good idea, because it means different things to different people. Okay, so once again, similar kind of thing. What does most mean? Overseas where? Because it depends how similar or different the culture is. For example, students in, say, Malaysia, which has some parts of Malaysian culture are quite similar to Indonesia, could be very different from someone studying in a country further away. So where the difference is, so obviously it makes a difference where they're studying. By students, do we mean undergraduate, postgraduate, school students? And as we said before, yes, what do we mean by severe culture shock? And then going back to what we said earlier, the lunar eclipse caused the flooding, which many people are writing this on social media. Again, what questions would students need to ask before they accepted this?
Okay, another one, everyone. Apa yang kira-kira bisa ditanya? Maybe I'll start this one.
Usually when you say that, Kay, so, oh, there we are. You did it again. Your magic. I want you as my MC for all presentations. So absolutely right, Fatia. Yes. How does it affect it? What's the mechanism? What's the causal link? Is it possible for this to happen? Which is a really, really important question. And probably the first one you should ask, well, how? So thank you, Fatia, for the most important question. Anybody, any more?
Maybe is there any data?
Yes.
Okay.
What kind of data would you like?
Like lunar eclipse could cause the flood?
Okay, yes. And again, because of course the lunar eclipse it can be seen from many, many countries all around Southeast Asia. Did any of them have flooding? The answer is no, by the way. So again, students need to ask, yes, so what is the cause? Okay, did it only happen in Bali, or did it happen in other countries? Did it happen last time there was an eclipse? But also, why did the floods happen 3 days after the eclipse? So it's not just accepting facts, it's asking the questions. And really, critical thinking begins with questions. Asking questions rather than accepting. So to conclude really with critical thinking, it's something that students may not do because they don't realize how important it is to actually ask these questions and question people. Maybe they're nervous about that. They don't want to be. The thing with critical thinking is not just criticizing. It can, and in a negative meaning. So it basically means asking these questions, and it may even help the person who made the statement to get them to think as well. Sometimes students don't want to disagree with academics, for example. But again, academics around the world are becoming more open to that because they want to discuss with their students. It's possible that students don't know how to critically think because they don't have all of the vocabulary or the grammar to ask the questions, which is something we focus on in our pre-departure training courses at IALF, is actually giving students the language skills to be able to do this as well. Which means basically it's the responsibility of English for Academic Purposes teachers in organizations like ours to help students develop critical thinking, and it needs to be done explicitly. We need to be saying to students, look, this is developing your critical thinking, because many students, in fact, already have quite good critical thinking skills. They just don't know what they do. They don't know they're thinking critically. So some of it, we're raising awareness of the fact that they're doing it. Basically, though, critical thinking is critically important. People who ask questions make a difference. So basically, keep asking questions. So thank you, especially to those of you who asked questions and made some really good comments. I hope this has been useful. Keep asking questions. Thank you.
Okay. Great. Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. J and Mr. David, for the presentation. That was a sharp insight to unlock our critical thinking skills. And even I got to sharpen my critical thinking. Okay. Now, let's move on. We are now arrived at the part everyone's been looking forward to, the Q&A session. Everyone, you can directly ask questions by clicking the raise hand feature on Zoom or by typing your questions in the chat box, either on Zoom or YouTube. And again, we will prioritize those who raise their hand to ask the question. Teman-teman bisa bertanya dalam bahasa Indonesia dan bahasa Inggris ya teman-teman. Jadi feel free to ask because our questions will be answered directly by our speakers. Make sure your questions are clear ya, okay? Boleh teman-teman bisa langsung raise hand atau mau tulis di chat boleh dalam bahasa Indonesia, bahasa Inggris juga boleh. Oh, we got one from Fatia, Mr. David. How do we develop critical thinking daily when the environment is currently not supportive?
Okay. One thing, well, we need to start by making the environment more supportive. What exactly do you mean by the environment is not supportive?
Okay, sure. I hope that answer your question, Fatia.
Well, basically, I'm just asking Fatia, what exactly do you mean by the environment is currently not supportive? Because obviously it depends where the students are, and it really does depend exactly what you mean. But the trend now is towards more supportive environments for critical thinking and exchanging ideas. The important thing about critical thinking, remember, is that it doesn't just mean criticizing and disagreeing for the sake of it, because it might be that the claim that somebody's making is a logical claim. But even then, it still needs critical thinking, because critical thinking, the answer might be, oh, yes, it is a good claim. It makes sense. I accept it and I believe it. So it's not to be confused with criticizing and saying that's wrong. It's just basically thinking, okay, is it right before I accept it? And for universities more and more now, then the environment is supportive because the people realize it is important to actually stop and question things. People who ask questions make a difference. In terms of developing critical thinking when the environment isn't supportive, well, it can be quite easy to find more supportive environments. There are online discussion groups where people discuss all kinds of things. Students or people can discuss things in groups. One good exercise to do is to make any statement like, the world is getting warmer, and then basically decide among your groups, among your friends, how many questions can you make about that? Basically practice asking questions. If you see a headline, and somebody makes a particular claim, see how many questions you can think of to about that particular claim. So it's a really good place to start, because you don't necessarily need other people to develop critical thinking skills. It's something you can do on your own in your head, which is a supportive environment. So if you think, even with advertising, if somebody's saying, if you buy this product, it will make your child smarter. Okay, then ask yourself, well, how do they know that? What do they mean by smarter? How does the product make my child smarter? Where's the evidence? When did they measure this? So it's something that you can do with really any claim that that somebody makes. You can practice doing it in the supportive environment of your own head.
Okay, thank you for the answers, Mr. David. Maybe kalau Kak Fatia masih mau menjelaskan nggak suportifnya itu seperti apa, boleh diketik atau boleh raise hand ya, biar bisa ngobrol secara langsung gitu. Karena kita bentuk tidak suportif tuh banyak ya. Okay, maybe another question, everyone, tentang critical thinking. Mungkin kalian punya bayangan gitu di luar negeri nanti kalau susah bahasanya aku harus seperti apa gitu ya. Kalau misal survive-nya gimana gitu. Or maybe I have one question regarding like you're here going to study abroad. So how can critical thinking help students in writing essays or conducting research, Mr. David?
Okay.
How do you think about that?
Well, it certainly helps with writing essays because it helps students to avoid arguments that don't make sense, like the apples argument we saw before. Also because a lot of the time essays start with questions, for example, research questions, and an essay is answering that kind of question. It means that students can help each other, because with critical thinking, it means you can help your friends. So if you have two people and you have to write an essay, check each other's work, compare with each other, and using critical thinking, does your friend's essay make sense? Are they supporting their arguments? And sorry, what was the second part? How can it help with?
Okay. Ada yang mau bertanya lagi? Thank you, by the way, Mr. David. Oke, teman-teman ada lagi yang mau bertanya, mungkin bisa raise hand. Bahasa Indonesia boleh, nanti kita bantu translate ke Mr. David.
Oh, I think sorry, Kay also said about how it can help doing research.
Oh yeah, conduct research.
Right. Critical thinking, basically, a lot of discoveries in research are made by accident. For example, penicillin was discovered by accident. So Alexander Fleming, he was cleaning some equipment and he noticed that there was some fungus which had which had reacted and had killed harmful organisms. And he thought, oh, what's happening there? He didn't just wash it up. He thought, now, he asked questions. Why has that died? What is the purpose of this? How can I use this? And he discovered penicillin, which has saved millions of lives, all because he asked the question, why did that happen? How can I use it? And so again, here in Indonesia, Eichmann of the Eichmann Institute, when he discovered vitamins, he said, look, why are those chickens healthy again? What is it? And because he asked the question, vitamins, and that knowledge about vitamins has saved so many lives over the years. So doing research, basically, it means thinking of and asking the right questions and not being satisfied with just accepting things. So it does help, and it helps to formulate the right questions as well. What is the solution to this? What are the, for example, why is there a problem with stunting? What's happening with that to cause that problem? Is it because they're eating? Is it social factors? What can we do? How can we help? How can we measure it? How do we know if we're succeeding? So it helps with research because it trains people to ask the right questions.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. David. We got one here from Rara. Mr. David, I think everyone will relate to this one. I really want to be critical, but when it comes to asking questions as we did before, I have no idea. My brain just blocked. Okay, how about that, Mr. David?
Okay, I think then what you need to do is when you are asking questions, you're asking questions about something. So break it down into parts. So like I did earlier, when we had most overseas students, or let's take any claim at all, but we had most overseas students suffer from severe culture shock. So ask questions about each of the parts. Most, how many is most? Overseas students, where? Students, who, how many? So break the sentence down into into different parts. If basically anytime somebody is making a claim, it's a sentence usually, and they're saying this is true. So it all starts really with the first question: how do you know it's true? Okay, so if somebody is saying, for example, this product, well, the famous one is about, let's not get too controversial. Any product at all that almost seems too good to be true, then you need to ask that. Let's think of a claim. So if somebody is saying, for example, that this brand of battery lasts 5 times as long. Okay, well, 5 times as long when it's used for what? Or this light bulb lasts 3 times longer. Does that mean if it's on all the time? What wattage? Where? Indoors or outdoors? What type of tropical climate? So basically, what does 5 times as long mean? What do you mean this light bulb? What do you mean lasts 5 times as long? So break the question down into individual parts. Okay. So from Cleosa, skeptical and critical. Okay, skeptical has a slightly more negative meaning. Skeptical really starts by saying, I don't really believe it. Whereas critical is, I'm not sure if it's true yet. So skeptical is kind of assuming already that it's not true. Now, sometimes that is okay. If I said to you, for example, I'm 15 years old, then of course you should be skeptical, because sadly that's no longer true. So you're automatically assuming it isn't true. Whereas with critical, you start off by being neutral. You're not sure if it's true yet. Skeptical, you don't think it's true. Critical, you don't know if it's true yet. So it kind of starts from a neutral viewpoint.
Okay, I hope that answers your question, Klausa and Rara. Tadi okay. This one is from Anton Rio.
You're welcome, Cleosa. Okay.
David?
Right, yeah. Okay. Skeptical. Okay, so for IELTS and PTE test, they don't demonstrate critical thinking, especially in writing task 2 or the speaking test. Basically, what happens is they don't explain why they believe something. They don't provide enough support for their examples. So if we had a question about banning mobile phones in schools, and they might say mobile phones should be banned in schools because they are not good and therefore they should not be allowed in schools. There's no support. So there's no critical thinking. So what the examiners are looking for, mobile phones should be banned in schools because they affect learning because students can't concentrate. Secondly, because they mean that students sit and just look at their phones and they don't take any exercise, which means that childhood obesity is a potential problem. Thirdly, they cost a lot of money, and if they're lost or stolen, then it causes problems for the parents. So in other words, what they're doing is they're providing a position, not just an opinion. So remember, a position means it's an opinion with support, logical support. So what the test takers are doing is they're not doing that. They're just stating opinions, either with a circular argument, they're bad because they're bad, or with an argument that is not properly supported. And what we need to do there is we need to be providing them with sample answers for those writing questions, and also doing lots of brainstorming in class. And brainstorming both sides of the argument. So, for example, on the whiteboard, on the left, mobile phones should be banned. On the right-hand side of the board, mobile phones should not be banned from school. And students have to come up with arguments from both sides. So, yeah, basically, that's the kind of things you can do.
Oke, semoga menjawab Kak Anton. Atau Kak Anton mungkin ada pertanyaan lanjutan, karena ini ada angka 1-nya, mana tahu ada lanjutannya ke angka 2. Maybe I will extend like one question regarding this one from Anton, Mr. David.
Go ahead.
Since our mother tongue is not English, do you think practicing critical thinking in our native language first makes it easier to transfer those skills into English, or should we train directly in English?
No, I think it kind of depends, but obviously critical thinking is good in any language. Because people who ask questions make a difference. So yes, there's nothing wrong with starting in your own language first. Obviously, our focus specifically here is on using English because the situation we're talking about, studying overseas, mostly that is in English. But absolutely, critical thinking in any language at all is a good thing.
Okay. Is there any other questions, everyone? Before we sum up this session? Oke, mungkin tentang IELTS gitu, karena kita juga ada writing task tuh seperti yang disampaikan sama Kak Anton tadi. Oh, maybe I got another one question, Mr. David.
Okay.
What are common mistakes like the test takers make when they try to sound critical in their essays or speaking answers?
Okay, what normally happens is that their support don't match the arguments. So they they are basically, yeah, it's just insufficient support. So it's not an argument really, it's just an opinion. So if there's a question, for example, about should still children do sport at school? Yes, children should do sport at school because it is a school subject, and sport at school is good. So there's nothing to it. So what they often do is it just doesn't make sense. It doesn't support their argument. It's just sometimes it's completely irrelevant.
Oh, I see. Okay, thank you so much. Maybe from Mr. J, you want to add some more? Like, because we are talking about IELTS.
Hang on, Anton Rio has just.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. First of all, I think that it is. Please don't interpret anything I'm saying as criticism of anything to do with the Indonesian educational system. But I think really and again, there is much more critical thinking going on in Indonesian universities. You know, I was just teaching a few weeks ago. I was given some training at Indonesian university, and they're really big on critical thinking there. So it is growing and it's spreading within the Indonesian university system. Basically, bridging the gap at the risk of becoming an advertisement is pre-departure training to prepare students for study in that kind of situation, because a good pre-departure training course includes critical thinking, as you saw earlier from Jay's presentation. It's one of the most important parts of it. Pre-departure training is much more than just English. It's English writing skills. It really includes all of those cultural and critical thinking aspects as well. So really, it's pre-departure training, but also, of course, students are able to develop the critical thinking by just developing a more critical approach to things in general, and to ask questions, start questioning things.
Okay. Okay, do you want to add some?
Well, it's worth remembering, like I said before, that people that ask questions and people that question things make a difference. You know, so obviously more than 80 years ago, a young man called Sukarno started asking questions like, but why are the Dutch here? Why are they the best thing for our country? Why can't we be independent? Why are they saying that we're not good enough to be an independent country? And he wasn't satisfied, and he asked those questions, and look at the result. You know, so people who ask questions make a difference. Critical thinking is part of that.
Yeah, I think that's all of the answers, Mr. David. Thank you. Semoga Kak Anton itu menjawab ya, Kak Anton. kritis banget ini pertanyaannya dan ngomongin tentang IELTS. Nah, di sini Mr. J udah nge-share beberapa link teman-teman untuk yang IELTS tips dan lain-lain. Dan di sini ada PDF juga yang bisa dicek sama teman-teman. Mungkin dari Mr. J, you want to add some more regarding the IELTS program or anything?
No, I think that's everything that needs to be said. I mean, in the links di situ juga ada program academic writing for journals. Jadi misalkan ada beberapa dosen-dosen atau mahasiswa S2 S3 yang ingin menerbitkan papernya ke jurnal, kita juga tentunya akan ada academic writing skills to publish your papers on an international journal. Gitu. Jadi have a look at our links yang sudah dikirimkan ke chat. Have a look at our brochure if you want to learn more about, academic English at IALF, baik itu online or here at IALF Bali. I think, our academic English program, especially our pre-departure training orientations or pre-departure training courses, would be really beneficial, especially for organizations or foundations here that provide scholarships to also provide training to their awardees. Jadi mereka semakin mantap, semakin siap sebelum berangkat ke luar negerinya itu, untuk melanjutkan studinya ke luar negeri.
As we've recently done, for example, to some groups from PLN who have their own scholarship system as well. So we've been helping them as well.
Yep. And one of the, ini tadi saya mungkin sedikit miss untuk informasikan. One of the feedbacks from the universities yang dari Australia ini khususnya sangat benar-benar terkesima ya dengan student-student yang dari Indonesia. Mereka yang sempat memberikan feedback bahwa ini student yang dari Indonesia secara akademis ini jauh lebih siap dibanding student-student dari negara-negara ASEAN atau negara-negara penerima beasiswa lainnya itu, when it comes to academic readiness and being active in school, in university. So itu aja informasinya.
Oke, thank you Mr. J. Dan itulah kenapa teman-teman kita sekarang ada presentasi tentang critical thinking ya, sangat diasah nih hari ini. Oke, we've got all of the questions answered. And now, before we wrap up, as usual, let's take a group photo together everyone as a memory of today's session. Please switch on your camera atau boleh pakai avatar kalau misalnya prefer pakai avatar. Boleh nyalain kameranya juga biar kelihatan nih calon-calon awardee beasiswa gitu. Boleh aku tunggu ya. Sambil aku lihat apakah sudah pada on cam. Oke. Boleh pakai avatar, boleh deh. Kalau belum make upan nggak apa-apa guys. Aman aja. Cantik-cantik, cakep-cakep semua kok. Oke. Apakah sudah semua? Ada lagi yang menyalakan kamera? Oke, I think that's enough. Boleh tim bisa standby ya, kita pose formal dulu, like formal pose. Oke, let me count that. 1, 2, 3. Okay, another pose, everyone, like your favorite pose. This one, this one. Okay, this one. Okay, Mr. J comes with heart sign. Okay, aku akan hitung. 1, 2, 3. Okay, should we make a heart pose like Mr. J? You can make any kind of pose from heart. This one, this one, this one, this one, this one, yeah, whatever. We have a lot. Okay, heart sign. Okay, we count 1, 2, 3. Okay, that's cool. And thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. J and Mr. David, for kindly sharing your valuable knowledge and enlightening insights with us today.
You're very welcome. Thank you, everyone.
Oke, teman-teman jangan lupa ya untuk mengisi absensi sekaligus feedback melalui link yang sudah dikirimkan di message box oleh tim. Gitu diisi ya, supaya kami bisa terus menghadirkan berbagai seminar-seminar, webinar yang lebih seru dan bermanfaat pastinya buat teman-teman ke depannya. Oke, jangan lupa juga teman-teman jangan sampai kelewatan kelas-kelas online berikutnya karena kita masih ada beberapa rangkaian kelas online dan juga kita akan ada puncak acaranya nih dari Pesta Beasiswa Rakyat Indonesia. Mungkin bisa dibantu dari tim untuk di-share. Kita ada 2 part nih. Yang part pertama kita akan ada di hari Sabtu tanggal 20 September besok jam 9 sampai jam 3 di Gedung Sesi Center Pantai Indah Kapuk, Jakarta Utara. Dan di part 2-nya di bulan Oktober 2025, jadi stay tune karena akan diadakan di Gedung MPR, DPR, DPD RI DKI Jakarta. Nah, ini teman-teman untuk lebih lanjutnya bisa nanti cek infonya di @festivalbeasiswa.id dan @scholarshipcenter.id di Instagram ya, biar tidak ketinggalan. Oke, nah untuk sertifikat, mungkin teman-teman yang nanyain sertifikat, itu nanti akan diinfokan lebih lanjut melalui grup WhatsApp. Jadi ditunggu aja ya. Kalau misalnya teman-teman ada yang belum gabung grup WhatsApp-nya, boleh langsung DM ke @festivalbeasiswa.id atau @scholarshipcenter.id ya, nanti biar bisa di-invite gitu. And I would like to extend again my sincere appreciation to IALF for their invaluable support of the Festival Beasiswa Merah Putih, Pesta Beasiswa Rakyat Indonesia. A big thank you as well to Mr. J and Mr. David, our speakers today, who have brought us amazing insights to get ready for our study abroad journey. Terima kasih juga kepada teman-teman yang sudah join pada rangkaian acara hari ini. Saya pribadi mewakili tim panitia dan juga para speaker, mohon maaf apabila ada kekurangan atau kesalahan selama jalannya acara. Semoga kedepannya kami bisa berkembang jauh lebih baik lagi. Aku Kay, selaku MC pamit undur diri. Om Shanti 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 Om. Shalom. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. See you on another inspiring online class, everyone. Have a great day. Goodbye.
Welcome to IALF, the Indonesia-Australia Language Foundation. IALF has been at the forefront of excellence in language training and testing for over 35 years, empowering people across Indonesia and beyond. IALF offers something for everyone, from general English courses for all ages to specialized programs such as IELTS test preparation for those preparing to study overseas or business English for professionals. IALF has provided pre-departure academic English language training for Australia Awards scholarships since the 1980s, as well as for other prestigious scholarship programs offered by New Zealand, the UK and other countries. Our general English courses cater to learners at all levels, building a strong English language foundation and opening doors to new opportunities. For young learners, we offer dynamic programs that make learning English enjoyable and effective. A good score in an international test such as IELTS or Pearson Academic is a prerequisite for studying or working abroad. At IALF, we offer testing services and test preparation courses for the general public and for government agencies to ensure that candidates perform at their absolute best. At IALF Global, we provide expert study abroad counselling services, guiding clients to the best international education opportunities. IALF Global Education Fairs connect students with institutions worldwide, broadening their horizons. IELTS tryout sessions provide realistic practice, boosting confidence and readiness for the actual exam. IALF branches are strategically located in Jakarta, Gading Serpong and Bali. We are always within reach to support your educational journey. Reflecting on our 35-year journey, we are inspired by the success of our students, alumni and partners. Join the thousands who have transformed their lives through language studies with IALF. Together, we build brighter futures.
Kementerian Koordinator Bidang Pembangunan Manusia dan Kebudayaan Republik Indonesia beserta Asosiasi Jaringan Beasiswa Indonesia mempersembahkan Gerakan Sejuta Beasiswa untuk Indonesia merupakan sebuah gerakan inisiatif kolaboratif yang bertujuan untuk menyediakan 1 juta kesempatan beasiswa bagi masyarakat Indonesia. Gerakan ini adalah hasil kolaboratif berbagai lembaga beasiswa dari dalam dan luar negeri. Gerakan Sejuta Beasiswa untuk Indonesia juga bertujuan untuk meningkatkan akses pendidikan bagi masyarakat yang kurang mampu, berpotensi dan berprestasi, baik prestasi akademik maupun non-akademik. Gerakan ini dalam rangka mendukung capaian pembangunan manusia dan kebudayaan di bidang pendidikan menuju Indonesia Emas 2045. Pendidikan adalah masa depan yang patut direncanakan. Sebagai salah satu aspek pilar pembangunan Indonesia, pendidikan memiliki peran strategis dalam mencetak SDM unggul dan kompetitif. Istilah bonus demografi yang kian menggema diyakini mampu menghantarkan Indonesia menuju generasi emas 2045.
Setiap anak bangsa berhak untuk mendapatkan kesempatan yang sama untuk meraih beasiswa.
Mimpi akan menjadi nyata jika akses pendidikan merata.
Kita harus bersatu, merancang dan meluncurkan sebuah gerakan besar. Gerakan Sejuta Beasiswa untuk Indonesia.
Gerakan untuk membuka lebih banyak peluang beasiswa bagi seluruh generasi muda Indonesia.
Asosiasi Jaringan Beasiswa Indonesia bersama pemerintah melalui Kementerian Koordinator Bidang Pembangunan Manusia dan Kebudayaan mendorong lahirnya Gerakan Sejuta Beasiswa untuk Indonesia. Gerakan Sejuta Beasiswa menargetkan pemuda-pemudi Indonesia berusia produktif yang berkomitmen untuk meningkatkan kualitas SDM Indonesia. Gerakan ini bertujuan untuk meningkatkan angka partisipasi kasar APK yang saat ini masih rendah.
Gerakan Sejuta Beasiswa untuk Indonesia membangun kualitas sumber daya manusia yang unggul dan berdaya saing global.
Dengan sinergi dan kolaborasi, kita wujudkan harapan menjadi kenyataan.
Ini bukan sekadar program, ini adalah gerakan nasional.
Gerakan Sejuta Beasiswa untuk Indonesia.
Pemerintah hadir bersama masyarakat, menyentuhkan visi Indonesia Emas 2045, mencetak SDM unggul dan berdaya saing global.
Badan Pembangunan Nasional mencatat, dalam 10 tahun terakhir, angka partisipasi kasar pendidikan tinggi di Indonesia hanya 31,45%. Jika dibandingkan negara ASEAN lainnya, APK pendidikan tinggi Indonesia masih jauh tertinggal. Keterbatasan kemampuan finansial masyarakat untuk melanjutkan pendidikan ke jenjang perguruan tinggi menjadi faktor utama rendahnya angka partisipasi kasar. Untuk itu diperlukan sinergitas antara lembaga pengelola beasiswa, mulai dari pemerintah, lembaga non-pemerintah, perguruan tinggi, termasuk para alumni dan penggerak.
Pemimpin masa depan lahir dari kesempatan yang dipersiapkan.
Kami hadir untuk memastikan bahwa tidak ada mimpi yang padam karena kemiskinan.
Informasi dan akses beasiswa adalah hak setiap warga Indonesia.
Kita satukan langkah agar beasiswa tak lagi terdengar asing di pelosok negeri.
Dari dalam negeri hingga studi ke luar negeri, setiap orang dapat kesempatan yang sama untuk mencetak prestasi.
Kami percaya potensi anak Indonesia itu luar biasa.
Tugas kita adalah membukakan jalan untuk mereka.
Bersama, kita hadirkan sejuta kesempatan untuk sejuta impian. Gerakan Sejuta Beasiswa untuk Indonesia bukan sekedar gerakan, tapi warisan kebaikan.
Kita pastikan beasiswa bisa menjangkau bagi siapa saja.
Kita beri ruang bagi mereka yang semangatnya tidak pernah padam.
Zakat, wakaf, dan donasi semua punya andil dalam mencerdaskan bangsa.
Beasiswa bukan sekedar bantuan dana, tapi jalan untuk meningkatkan sumber daya manusia.
Tidak boleh ada kesenjangan dalam akses pendidikan. Melalui beasiswa, kita wujudkan harapan anak bangsa untuk terus berkembang dan berkontribusi bagi bangsa dan negara. Beasiswa adalah investasi terbaik masa depan untuk mengejar ketertinggalan.
Menuntut ilmu itu wajib, karena dengan ilmu, kesejahteraan bisa tercapai.
Bagi kami, program beasiswa bukan sekedar CSR. Ini adalah komitmen jangka panjang untuk membentuk pemimpin masa depan yang jujur, berakhlak, dan cerdas.
Kami mendukung anak-anak Indonesia agar tidak berhenti belajar karena miskin.
Majunya sebuah negara ditentukan oleh kualitas pendidikannya.
Beasiswa adalah jembatan menuju kesejahteraan dan kemandirian ekonomi.
Generasi muda harus disiapkan untuk memimpin Indonesia.
Potensi diri bisa tergali dengan hadirnya program beasiswa dari dalam dan luar negeri.
Pendidikan adalah fondasi untuk melakukan perubahan.
Generasi emas 2045 bisa tercapai jika akses pendidikan merata untuk semua.
Semakin banyak beasiswa, semakin besar harapan anak bangsa untuk sekolah.
Akses pendidikan yang merata, membuka cakrawala, mengarungi samudera.
Kami bergerak untuk menanam harapan lewat pendidikan.
Sejatinya, beasiswa bukan hanya bantuan, tetapi kepercayaan.
Percaya untuk anak bangsa menjadi versi terbaik dari dirinya.
Kesempatan itu kini hadir lewat gerakan sejuta beasiswa.
Mari kita sebarkan kabar baik ini ke seluruh penjuru Indonesia.
Dari kota ke desa, dari timur sampai barat, beasiswa untuk semua.
Kami berkomitmen agar tidak ada anak Indonesia yang tertinggal.
Menuntut ilmu adalah cahaya dan beasiswa adalah jalannya.
Inilah gerakan sejuta beasiswa untuk Indonesia, gerakan menuju Indonesia Emas 2045.
Bersama
kita hadirkan sejuta kesempatan
untuk sejuta impian.